WNOV and W293 CX 106.5 FM Courier Communications, Milwaukee, but are the sole comments of the host and guest of this particular show.
All right, good morning and welcome to Community Voice. I'm your host, Keith Parris. I want to thank everybody for joining us this morning. Good morning, Clark Kent.
Who you with?
Hey, man, trying to be down with the people. Apostle.
Bishop, chairman of the board. God bless you.
Junior Prelate.
Right. Deacon in training. God bless you.
Deacon in training. Adet. Deacon in training.
Oh, man.
What's happening, y'all?
How you doing?
Man, listen, Doc. Woo-wee.
It's been the morning.
I mean, from it being hot out to Michelle tearing the whole new rear end on people on social media, it's been a hell of a morning, Jack.
Yeah, that brother. Hey. I don't.
That brother.
Yeah, I try not to. As y'all know, I don't usually get into personalities. Certainly on a local level, I don't call names, but she was on point.
One thing that you don't do is mess with a person who has the microphone.
Well, and I think it's also one of those things where, okay, we got it, man. You do what you do. You come down. The thing that people don't always understand in I'm talking about for elected officials is that there are a lot of different influences and concerns that they have. And so I mean, and we can be real hard on our electeds. Now, sometimes some of our electeds we're not hard enough on. But I know with this particular individual, man, I mean, he just goes after everybody, and he wants to be heard. But it was something that Michelle was saying to one of our callers, like, we got that, but sometimes it's how you doing what you're doing. It's not that you're not necessarily right, but it's your tone that's just so crazy. And like I told him Sunday at church, don't sin talking about the sin. I mean, that is, that's kind of where we're at. But no, I mean, she was on point, and it's the world that we live in, bros. It's the world that we live in.
Yeah.
So anyway, the phone line's open 414-444-5250, 414-444-5250. What's really crazy is that, Saturday will mark 250 years of this country.
250 years.
I still ain't free.
Who you with?
You fool.
Everybody else with you ain't free. Yeah, I mean, it's complicated. I started watching this piece that they're doing. I know people have been watching This Land that CNN is doing. Some days it's just more difficult to really watch how this country was formed.
Yeah.
And, certainly part of us being part of the narrative, us being descendants of Africans who were enslaved and Africans who were free. And even going back, I was watching a piece on the Civil War, and he was talking about how the British government came in and offered freedom to enslaved Africans and indentured slaves, indentured servants who would join the British Army during, I think, the Indian Wars and then partly during the Revolution. So African people in America have been part of every war in America. We've been part of every war. And, it's something that Doc Rivers said. He says that, Black people love America. America don't always love us back. And I think that becomes the frustration in terms of living in this country and understanding that the contributions that we made to this country. And then in spite of that, I mean, think about it. You're a World War I veteran. You come back, you're exposed to mustard gas, everything that everybody else is exposed to, obviously post-traumatic stress syndrome, all those things. You come back and you fought for your country, yet your country still wanted to segregate you. They talked about during the Second World War where they had German prisoners of war who were housed in the South, and they could ride in the front of the train or bus, and then Black people who served in the military in uniform still had to ride in the back of the bus or the train. So it's all these indignities, and it's all these indignities, and it's very difficult. And you would think that we probably moved on from that point, but we haven't. As a matter of fact, there are some who are arguing that we see this white lash, that any progress that's been made by people of color, the dominant Europeans in this country still want to take it back. So, yeah, and I think, and that's a great segue into the Supreme Court decision on birthright citizenship. Let's talk about that a little bit, because now, supposedly part of the motivation on all of this was the so-called birth tourism, where people would come from other countries, women would be pregnant, they come have their baby on American soil. Because they had the baby on American soil, then their children obviously would be automatic U.S. citizens. That would open up a pathway for immigration for these folks. And then there was the other thing, and they don't use this term as much anymore, called anchor babies, right? Where you might have, and this was primarily people coming from Central, South America, Mexico would come have children. And then again, because of that, and I'm trying to think what Donald Trump's status would have been based on had that come out, because I don't know if his mom and dad came here legally. But if that was the case and then he was born here, it would have impacted him. It is rooted in a couple of things. It's rooted in that there's a segment in this country who are fearful of white folks no longer being the majority, in terms of population. There's also the nativism, there's the racism, right, that's attached to this. And it resonates with people. If you can convince someone in West Virginia that the reason why you don't have a job is because of a Hispanic illegal, you don't have jobs because of economic policies, and economic policies directed by the very person said he was running for you. He wasn't really running for you. They manipulated you. They pimped your emotions, and so then you became vulnerable. Well, let's talk a little bit about this birthright citizenship, because Michelle kind of mentioned it, but there's something, and I heard this term. During the Charlottesville marches. I think that would have been back in 2018, where a young lady lost her life. But there's this phrase that these guys were, one, they were, you will not replace us. But then they had this other thing, blood and soil. Blood and soil, and let me try to give you the Latin on this. Blood and soil is described as two primary competing doctrines that nations use to grant nationality: birthplace, based on citizenship soil, and ancestry, based on citizenship. These two legal frameworks define how a country determines who belongs, who can vote, and who has rights. So, and here's the Latin jus soli. Jus soli means that citizenship is granted almost anybody born within the physical territory or airspace of a country, regardless of their parents' nationality or legal status. And the United States is an outlier for this model. It is enshrined in the Citizenship Clause of the 14th Amendment, which guarantees birthright citizenship. The Supreme Court reaffirmed this, blocking an executive order that attempted to end birthright citizenship for children of undocumented immigrants. Whereas it's used primarily through North and South America, US, Canada, Mexico, Argentina. And then there is the right of blood, jus sanguinis. What it means is citizenship is determined by the nationality of one's parents rather than the physical place of birth. Under this system, a child is automatically a citizen if one or both parents are citizens, even if the child is born in another country. And we see that primarily with kids who are born on military bases, US military bases, or born in other parts of the world because their mom and dad is a U.S. citizen. Therefore, then they would have the rights of a U.S. citizen. So there's a tension between these two legal philosophies shaped modern immigration policies, national identities, and global disputes over who's entitled to the rights of a nation. So those are the blood and soil. Now, for us, it's both, right? Our parents were U.S. citizens, and we were born in America. So we do both blood and soil. But this idea that they were pushing back on, and this policy really came into place because there was another decision based on a Chinese individual who was born. His parents were here illegally, and he was born here, and he brought a case before the Supreme Court that reaffirmed 14th Amendment rights to U.S. citizenship. Now that becomes important if you want to run for president, because in order to run for president, you have to be 35 or older, and then you also have to be a natural born U.S. citizen. You cannot be naturalized and become president. That was the issue when people were talking about Arnold Schwarzenegger running for president. Well, Arnold Schwarzenegger is a nationalized U.S. citizen. He is not a natural born U.S. citizen. So it becomes important, and the consequences of people being able to even erode this, and there are many people saying it should have been a 9-0 vote, but they're the reliables, Alito, Thomas, and Gorsuch, who represent this regressive white supremacist piece or so-called conservatives. That's why when Meech asked me yesterday, how would I describe myself? I think sometimes some people don't fit comfortably in labels. When you look at, again, how maybe descendants of Africans might vote, or if you look at Latinos and how they might vote, sometimes it would almost seem that it is contradictory. Like we always talk about how African Americans tend to be socially conservative, yet when it comes to government, they fully support government socialism as it relates to health, human needs, and so it almost seems like a contradiction. And so I think it's an important decision. I think people need to understand that you have the rights as a U.S. citizen, and the only time that many of those rights can be taken from you is when you become a prisoner, right? You go to prison, then your rights can be taken away. That's the only time, and the only time that really the 14th Amendment will allow enslavement. So I couldn't see how the court couldn't do it. I don't know if this was a decision where they allowed the three dissenters to be able to go into dissent. I find it interesting that one of the few times, other than when Clarence Thomas was up for confirmation, and based on allegations that Anita Hill and others made about him and sexual harassment, and he called it a high-tech lynching, for uppity Negroes who dared think for themselves. Dude, it wasn't even about that. And now all of a sudden, now you want to invoke images that usually is applied to Black people when you start talking about a lynching, right? And that's one of the things that, Joe Biden didn't really comport himself well when it came to that confirmation hearing for Clarence Thomas, and you know what? And this is something a whole lot of Black people now got a problem with Clarence Thomas. But during that confirmation hearing, there was a whole lot of Black people who were supportive of Clarence Thomas. That whole thing about, well, they trying to bring a Black man down. Okay, y'all, really? Sometimes we just really misplace, we just really misplace our allegiances. And that one was crazy because, again, there were two other women that Biden would not allow to testify that would have corroborated everything that Anita Hill said. So it wasn't like a real good moment for us. But again, there were a lot of Black people who supported Clarence Thomas. And that's the problem sometimes when we get so locked into race, right? We'll talk about it when we talk about the WNBA, but it's so woven into our society that we can't look at anything without looking at it through the lens of race. And sometimes that's a distorted view, because race is a construct. It is not real. It's not a biological thing. The only thing is biological is appearance. And that's what it is. So we fall into it. Just for the last few years, I've really been looking at how we even developed this construct of race. And there are great books out there, The History of White People, which talks about a whole lot of things. It's more complicated and more nuanced than anything. And then let me say something else to some of these descendants of Europeans. Not all Europeans were granted white status when they got to this country. Ask Jews, ask the Irish, ask Eastern Europeans, ask the Italians. Because as they began to come in, those folks who were already here, the nativists, people already here, would be very condescending. In the Boston area, where they had a large number of Irish folks, they would have signs up, Irish need not apply. So, it is America, but race has been used. Race has been used to justify enslavement. Enslavement enriched this country. People worked for free, literally worked for free, right? And then upon emancipation, would even give those people who had worked the land would not even give them land, and at the same time compensated slaveholders for the loss of property. It's hard when you go in and looking at America as we go into celebrating or acknowledging 250 years of existence. We have to talk about the history, and there's a movement out there now to sanitize history. But if you're a true historian, you take it blemishes and all. Let me do this other thing about this birth tourism. I was looking like, what countries are the countries that send the most people here, or they said they average about 36,000 births a year in this country that are people who come in from other countries. And not surprising, it was China. And I don't know how much of that, when they say China, is Taiwan, and how much of that is China, mainland China. But then it's Russia, and then Nigeria. China, Russia, and Nigeria. Not South American countries. China, Russia, and Nigeria. And for people like Nigerians, because basically the Nigerians who are admitted in this country usually come from families of means, or they're highly educated. Okay. And that's the other thing. When they sit up and talk about immigration and who are the people in here usually most illegally in this country, that's a bad sentence, is usually people who overstayed their visas, right? They legally were able to enter the country, and then they basically never went back. So yeah, when you watch that case, that was really rooted in, again, this construct of race, around race. And then, and Michelle mentioned it, and I think Kachandi Brown kind of mentioned it, the only time this Negro wanted to talk about Black people, to invoke that, again, when they're talking about them slaves. Man, come on, dude. Really? And again, I asked the question yesterday, does he think he's an honorary? And then what's the deal with Clarence Thomas visiting Mike Johnson? Why would anyone on the Supreme Court be visiting the leadership of Congress? Now, people will tell you that during the time of Richard Nixon, was it Rehnquist? He regularly talked to Nixon. There should be a clear separation of powers. We have the executive branch, we have the legislative branch, and then we have the judicial branch. And there should be because Americans should feel that their rights are going to be recognized. And so then we need really an independent judiciary. One of the reasons why they give federal judges lifetime appointments is that then they're not under the whims of who's politically in power, even though we do know that those folks usually are very beholden to the people who were certainly got them appointed to the Supreme Court or got them appointed a judge. There's a judge down in Miami, Judge Cannon, who is a Trump appointed judge. And I'm telling you, what this woman will do anything to support Donald Trump. That's bad. And she has a lifetime appointment. She has been reprimanded by that circuit in terms of some of her decisions. But what can you do other than impeach her, right? I mean, you did, and then that's even a high bet. So that's where we find ourselves in America as we approach the 250th anniversary of this country. And boy, let me tell you something. I love visiting Washington, D.C. I don't know if you all ever do that, but that's a great trip. I mean, there's something about the beauty of that city, what it represents. And certainly when you get into what they call the Federal District, down by the Capitol, the White House, the Mall, Lincoln Memorial, the Washington Memorial, and then over on the Potomac where you have the Jefferson Memorial, the King Memorial. I mean, it's just a beautiful city. What Donald Trump has done to the mall is crazy. This whole America State Fair piece that they were doing there, first of all, nobody's showing up. And now I think they were predicting that it's going to be like 104 degrees in Washington today. It's going to be hot. And man, just sit up and you think about this dude. They had to close the reflecting pool. because he went in and messed up the reflecting pool. He puts a huge replica of this arch that he wants to. I mean, it's just man, it's this dude, this dude. I mean, it's wow. Anyway, phone lines are open. Someone put in Supreme Court justices need a term limit 15 years. Also packed the court to round the number to 13. I know there have been people out there who've been talking about that, but then it also depends on timing because it's whoever's in power who will put those judges on the Supreme Court. And I think conceptually, one should not be locked into where I know I got 15 years. I mean, I don't know. You know, in the Catholic Church, if you're a cardinal, you know, you have to send your retirement letter to the Pope, you know, at the age of 75. It's kind of because, you know, I'm moving in that area now. So how do I feel about age limits? I don't know. You're listening to Community Voice. Phone lines open 414-444-5250. 414-444-5250. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
on WNOV 860 AM and 106.5 FM with your host, Keith Parris.
I don't see Jermaine, so am I back? Welcome back. I'm good. What's happening? I can't hear you.
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Just make sure I was heard. Someone put in I'm looking at the chat. Thank you, Zebra, knowing your history. The case in point, New York City's draft riots in the 1860s. That is absolutely correct. The Irish could not see themselves going to fight for Black people in the South for the Confederacy. And so there were riots in New York. Zebra also pointed in that Supreme Court justice need a term limit of 15 years. Also packed the courts to around number 13. The problem, as I had pointed, that one of the problems would be who's ever in power will be able then to select who those justices or those judges are. Democrats have to learn how to play dirty, like the Republicans. They stopped Obama from appointing a judge. They don't play by the rules, always changing them, but have the nerve to say others cheat. Yeah, I think that's called projection, where you put on someone else things that, in fact, you're doing. So it's not surprising. Look, man, folks are in it to win it. And as I get DJ upset when I say it all the time, but what the Oakland Raiders used to say, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. So yeah, that's where we we find ourselves. 414-444-5250, 414-444-5250. As many of you know, I am a fan of the WNBA. I am a fan of women's sports, period. And this has really been, the WNBA is 30 years old. When you look at the women who really made this league what it is, it was primarily Black women, right? And the sacrifices that they really made for people like, let's say, Cheryl Miller, who there was no NBA and WNBA, and then when she tore her knee up, she couldn't play anymore. She never had a chance to play in the WNBA. So we were deprived of probably seeing, if not one of the greatest women basketball players of all time, not being able to compete at that pro level here in America. But if you go back to people like Lisa Leslie, Cheryl Swoops, one of the first women ever to have her own signature sneaker at Nike, just on and on and on. I mean, and then Black and white women, Rebecca Lobo, Diana Taurasi. But last year, was it last year, year before last, whenever Caitlin Clark's rookie year was, that was 3 years ago. She was the great white height. And so when she came into the league, and there is no question that the viewership went up upon her arrival in the WNBA, even though they had a great product prior to her arriving. What we're discovering now is that she is not the greatest player in the WNBA. She's probably more hype than reality. She's a good WNBA player. She has not gotten to the status of great, but I think a whole lot. So even going back to, and look, I followed the women's NCAA tournament. Man, I just go back with them. And when they made the run, when she was at Iowa, and they made the run, well, they were able to market her. Remember, we talked about how in America we have a tendency to view things through race. And so when she got into the league, there were women there like any rookie. And wow, it made me think about when Pete Maravich came out of LSU, and I think he was originally with the Atlanta Hawks. And you had people on that team like Lou Hudson, and they talked about him coming in making $1 million a year. Well, you had players like Lou Hudson and the other Black players, and many of the white players weren't making that kind of money because he was really the great white hope. Now, in fairness to Pete Maravich could ball. They're, you know, they didn't have to hype him. Pete Maravich was a baller. I mean, to the point where you hear Magic Johnson and all those folks going like, man, I modeled my game after Pete Maravich. So, but that has always been, and I, you know, hate to put it this way, but we got to talk about it, that there's always this tinge of race that's interjected into sports, right? You can be an above average white player and you will get hype that makes you like, great, hey, can I give you another name? How about Brian Bosworth, right? You might remember the Bos? You know, oh, he was a beast at Oklahoma. He was just an average linebacker by the time he got to the NFL. And then he was fully exposed when Bo Jackson ran him over. You know, so I think a lot of that leads up to when Caitlin Clark came into the league. There's no question the viewership of the WNBA went up. I mean, the viewership went up. So you have to give her credit because all eyes were on her. But then it's also now because all eyes are on her that there's a certain look that there were veteran players, and I don't think it had anything to do with Caitlin Clark being white as much as it was. They were trying to figure out why is she getting all this hype, you know, and you know she ain't played a game yet. And you had these women out there who have been playing. So I don't know if anybody's familiar with the situation with her and Alyssa Thomas over the weekend. Alyssa Thomas received a 1-day suspension for a flagrant 2 foul that wasn't called during the game. So there's a clip where they show that Caitlin Clark got knocked down. Alyssa Thomas is standing over and she had a balled up fist and she kind of had it on her throat, but she didn't push down on it. It was on her throat, kind of used it to balance to get herself up. And oh my God, oh man. White right-wing media went crazy. Oh, God. You know, this Alyssa Thomas. Now, let me say this about Alyssa Thomas. And anybody who watches the WNBA know this is her game. Alyssa Thomas is a Rick Mahorn that can shoot. Okay? She's a Rick Mahorn that can shoot. She is limited because one thing she cannot do, because I think it's the liberum, she can't lift her arms above her head. So the way she plays, and she's never had the surgery to do the correction because she's been out there playing. But she's always been a rough and tumble player. Angel Reese's rookie year, remember? She did, when she took her down hard, she did a hard foul on her. So she has a reputation of being a very, very physical player. And that's one of the things I notice when I watch her. She's trying to really get in the head of the people out there that she's playing against. And one of the things is her physicality. Well, one thing led to another. She received a 1-game suspension for a flagrant 2 foul. But then it didn't end there. So now the racist comes out. There was a guy, and I saw a great post yesterday on Facebook where the guy comes out and he was saying that, you know, he didn't watch the WNBA until Caitlin Clark got there. And so the person responded, well, you've been sleeping on all these women out here who are phenomenal talents who you should have watched. And it makes it sound like you're racist because the only reason why you watched was because of Caitlin Clark. And then now there's another young lady who's actually playing with Caitlin Clark now, Sophie Cunningham. Sophie Cunningham is this blonde, slender woman, but I'm telling you, Sophie Cunningham is, when there's some drama out there, she's usually up in the mix. Now, she's not getting the same smoke that Alyssa Thomas is getting, and that's the racism. And then I was watching Newsmax, and the guy was talking about the situation with Alyssa Thomas and Caitlin Clark, and he said, you know, here's the problem. She's white. She has a boyfriend. I'm going, oh, now there's open knowledge that Alyssa Thomas is a lesbian. So is DeWanna Bonner, that's her partner. And look, in the WNBA, there are a significant number of gay women in the WNBA. So then it turns into now Alyssa Thomas and DeWanna Bonner are receiving death threats. Social media is going out and they do it on racism and it's about race. And so the WNBA has a real problem. And they're talking about Engelhardt, who is the current commissioner of the WNBA, the players hate her, right? The players hate her. She's a person who's come in and she's generated a whole lot of money. Because here's the reality. How many people would watch the WNBA if Caitlin Clark wasn't playing? Yeah. 414-444-5250, 414-444-5250. Someone said, is there a difference between physicality and dirty? I think it's in the eyes of the beholder. Rick Mahorn had no problems being physical, but then, Rick Mahorn was limited in terms of what he could do. When you look physically, when you look at Bill Laimbeer, so what else did they have? So in order, because they might not have had the great athleticism, you use what you got. And so if you're going to be physical, that's what you use. So I don't know how many of y'all watch the WNBA. I know I watch it. And let me shout out, because it was the women in the WNBA who, and I talked about this before, when they were in the bubble. And we had the situation down in Kenosha and George Floyd, where it was the women in the WNBA who said first they weren't going to play. The men were on the Late Show, right? And look, and at this point, they weren't under the current collective bargaining agreement that they have, and they were standing to lose a whole lot of money, but they were able to make that stand. And so those women have been courageous on a lot of different levels. It is what they used to say about Ginger Rogers dancing with Fred Astaire. She did the same steps, but she did them backwards. So the difficulty that women have in this society, as much as we like to make this argument that women are equal, the reality is that women are still in a rather subordinate position, even though it's women who will not only provide care for the children, they'll go out and work. And we have no problem putting that expectation on women, and so shout out, but going to be really watching what's happening going forward with the WNBA. Caller, welcome to the program. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Parris.
Hey,
Assalamu alaikum to you, brothers.
Good morning. Salam.
Yes, sir. Mr. Parris, what you just mentioning, first can I say this, because it's been weighing on me. I wanted to extend my heartfelt condolences to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan on the magnanimous loss of the First Lady of the Nation of Islam, the exemplary woman that she was and is, how she represented Black womanhood, and extend my condolences to every member of the Nation of Islam, registered, and those who are maybe supporters or who have some support for the Nation of Islam. And I wanted to say that because the loss of a mother is so awesome. And then when you come from a family that has the integrity that that family has and has represented, Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and his wife, the First Lady, Mother Khadijah, were together through all manner of difficulties, one and the other. They were young together, knowing each other before he started courting her. And so to have that loss as a mother, and have Mother Khadijah, and may Allah be pleased with her example that she represented for Black women and women all over the world. And then I wanted to say this about the basketball thing with Caucasian lady and Black persons or people, other Black women. what I've been hearing is that that they think that it's not so much about her being Caucasian. It's more about that she's not into a particular lifestyle. She's married, and I'm not sure if she has children, but she's married and things like that. And so I'm thinking that, well, I'm not necessarily thinking because I don't know too much about it, but what I've been told by some people that they think that this, if not is a part of it, this could be the very reason why this this Caucasian lady is having whatever difficulties she's having. I don't necessarily watch the WNBA, and I wouldn't let my daughter play basketball. I would try to, I would try to make her go to a different route. I would try to convince her to go maybe run track or something like that. Do something, that's not as masculine as basketball is, and that's my utteration or utterance, I should say, for the day. Thank you, sir.
I appreciate you. No, Caitlin Clark is not married. She's alleged to have a boyfriend, but I do think that it's not just rooted in the issue of race. It really is rooted around these issues of sexuality, and that's the hard part for a lot of people to kind of accept. But if we just get out of people's bedrooms and just appreciate them as people and understand that who you love is who you love, it is not for me to say who you love or how you should love who you love. But I think that, Christopher, it is not just rooted in race; it's also rooted in a certain homophobia that people have out there as it relates to women and athletes. Athletics in general. I do this. I know I got to go to a break.
Hey, but real quick, Keith, before you go to a break, I was watching Sports Center, and I see how the young lady is getting death threats for the foul she committed on.
And when you look at it, it wasn't really a foul.
It wasn't even a
aggressive foul.
So it's like for these people to use the foul as a launching pad for them to throw death threats is unbelievable, man. Like, it's a game. So if we playing and I foul you, I'm not trying to kill you.
Right.
So it's a game that we playing a game, but for you to send death threats at me because I fouled your favorite player is crazy to me, man.
And I'm going to say this. If you watch the women's game, it's a little bit more physical than the men. The way they play, it is just more physical just because some of the things that, just biological differences when it comes to men and women. But, I think it's that in terms of women are very competitive.
Yeah.
And I don't know if people realize how competitive women are or they're not. Yeah, women can be more competitive than men. And when you see them out there, man, that's the whole thing. And that's the thing I really like. There's this little sister, what is her name? Her last name is Kennedy, Canada. I like her name because she's Kennedy. She's a little girl, man. But this little girl be balling.
She be putting in work, huh?
Man, she's like Skylar Diggins. Skylar Diggins weighs 42 pounds. But that woman has so much heart when you look at her. I mean, it is. So, I appreciate that in terms of, like in the NBA, you might have some guys who was all like Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was obsessed with women. Kobe Bryant, Larry, these dudes, they were obsessed with it. But not every dude in the NBA was that way.
Yeah. Right.
A lot of dudes out there collecting checks. But you watch these women, they play hard.
Yeah.
The whole thing. And so it's a great product. And I'm just sorry, but look, it's America. I have to accept this reality that people are going to bring race into it, and then you get into what you get into. Now, I thought, when you look at, anyway, all right, I'll come back. I'll pick this up on the other side. I'm going to have a moment, man. I'm going to have a moment. You're listening to Community Voice. The phone line's open, 414-444-5250, 444-5250. Going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
FM with your host, Keith Parris.
All right, welcome back. Caller, welcome to the program. Good morning.
Caller?
Hang on, Keith. I walked away from the phone. Hang on. Here I come. Sorry about that, man. I had went in the kitchen real
From
quick.
a distance.
Yeah, we call that a ride out. I walked away from the board. My bad.
Right.
You know, Keith, I love watching the WNBA too. I think it's a good product that they got out on the floor too. But in that post I sent you, the Great White Hope is always alive, Keith.
Uh-oh.
And they always going to find a way to keep themselves relevant, even though we put in the hard work. What's that old saying? We got to run faster, jump faster, all that other kind of stuff. They don't have to work as hard as we do now. Has Caitlin won a championship in anything since she's been playing?
She has not.
Nope.
Nope.
High school?
High school.
High school, yeah.
She did in high school?
Yeah, high school she did.
On the collegiate level?
No.
And not in the NBA yet, WNBA yet either, right?
No.
Right.
Who's got the most technicals that you know of so far?
Caitlin Clark.
Okay, so she ain't no what I want to say. What's the proper word?
Angel.
Correct. There you go. But I was looking for a little bit, but that'll work. So she be out there cussing, fussing, all that kind of stuff. So you dish it out. You got to take it, right?
I agree.
And so that's my feeling on it. But this is what I had called in to say too, because it's really making me mad. Because I think it was I don't know if it was a congressman, a senator, or something, and I don't know if that's the guy you were talking about, Keith. That once what's the black lady's name? That to me it looked like I don't think she did it on purpose, Keith.
She did.
I watched that over and over and over, Keith. I don't think she did that on purpose, Keith.
Yeah.
Because if she would have did that on purpose, trust me, she would have stayed on that neck a lot longer than that.
Man, and like I said, ask Angel Reese, because Angel Reese rookie year, Alyssa Thomas took her out. I mean, took her out. That was like a grown woman foul.
And I want to be careful on this because it ain't all white people, but it's going to sound like I condemn it all white people when I say this. I asked you earlier, have you watched This Land? And you said you haven't watched it yet. But they have the nerve to call people savages, right? They are the true savages. If you sit down and watch, I think this might have been the third or fourth week of this program. Everybody that's in this country has contributed to this nation. But who do they want to take credit for that built this nation? White people. They are the true savages. They want to take credit for everything. This is stolen land. So for him to talk about this birthright stuff is a joke. Even his people. Now, would Barron fall under that?
Well, that was a question because, again, his mother's from Scotland and his dad is from Germany. I would think that those two countries didn't have the quota, because a lot of people don't realize that there's a quota in terms of the number of people who can come into this country. I think it's based on 2% of the current population. And so it could have been. I think it's a slippery slope, because if you can go in and determine that this group would not be eligible for birthright citizenship, what would be the next group? But the fact that it wasn't 9-0.
Almost everybody that's over here, how far back would you have to go
exactly
to claim birthright citizenship? So
exactly.
Would everybody have to clear out?
Well, I mean, obviously, per Clarence Thomas, we wouldn't. Because the 14th Amendment was just written for former enslaved individuals and their descendants. That's based on his argument. I think if you have a more expansive view of people who come to America, and look, man, every group has come in and made some contribution to this country being what it is.
Everybody, Keith.
Everybody. And so I think,
and we
we should be careful not to make one group's contribution more significant than I think it all plays together for America being unique. And in a lot of ways in world history, America is a very unique country, in terms of what it is. No country at this size and scale has ever done participatory citizen democracy as imperfect as it is.
This is the land of immigrants.
Yeah.
Now, Keith, I'm going to tell you something now. If the white man truly thought that they can win any of these wars that they had without the Native Americans, because they contributed to the wars, we did, the Chinese, you name it. Do you think if they thought they could have won any of those wars without any of us, don't you think they would have excluded us out of that?
I think in some instances that was the case. It was the Union Army. I don't think really allowed descendants of Africans and African people to fight until like 1863. So,
and you know what the trip part about it is, Keith? As bad as this country has done us and everybody else, when you go back and you look at these stories, I would just watch one the other day about these brothers. It's called 24. Keith, it's about a battalion, the 24th Command Battalion. Keith, we be wanting to go and sacrifice our life for this country to prove ourselves, not just us, but everybody here. But when you come back home, the soldiers from Vietnam, from World War II, you name it, how badly they were treated, even in their uniforms, Keith, they were hung in their uniforms, Keith.
Yep.
So it makes me mad with these death threats. That's cowardly stuff. Cowardly stuff, Keith. And
but it is also, again, and I don't know if I should elevate it to this, but it's also the sickness of racism in this country, and just how I think I want to use the word perilous the impact is, and even those who practices, those who are the victims of it, there is no winner. I mean, one of the things you talked about Vietnam, and they had to go to a draft lottery because the draft disproportionately impacted. Now, here's the thing, and that's why I say you can't always look at things through race. It wasn't just poor Black folks. It was a whole lot of poor white men who end up going to fight in Vietnam, and until the lottery, because if you were college educated, your family had means, ask Donald Trump, you go and get all these deferments, whether they call him General Bone Spurs.
Keith, I'm going to say this because we always talk about Donald Trump, but you know who another two presidents who got deferments?
Who?
Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
And Joe Biden.
Yeah, okay.
Now, it wasn't for bone spurs because if you had means, or I think it was because if you were in college and some
other, Bill Clinton was a perpetual student.
I can't remember what the other ones were for because I looked this up, Keith.
Oh, yeah, it was definitely, and that's why I think in America, as much as we talk about it being race, it is, but race is really baked into class. That's why I would suggest that everybody read Isabel Wilkerson's book, Caste, because you get a real understanding that is deeper than race.
Yeah.
It's deeper than race. And I think that when we have the racial arguments, it divides people who should have a natural affinity, because if you're a displaced coal miner in West Virginia, it impacts you the same way if you're a displaced factory worker in Detroit.
And like I said too, Keith, the other day when I was talking to you, and a lot of them coal miners in Kentucky and stuff was still, even though he took away the stuff for cancer and all that kind of research and stuff for coal miners' lung with their black lung and stuff like that, they said they would still vote for him. How crazy is that?
But then at the same time, some of those very same coal miners had voted for Obama. And that's the little piece that people miss, that because in spite of everything they might have had internally in terms of falling back on race, there was a reality here. The Affordable the Affordable Care Act opened up clinics in rural areas. Dentistry was a real issue in rural areas. That's why when you read J.D. Vance's book, Hillbilly Allergy, there's something in there that's called Mountain Dew teeth. because of the bad dental care, because people didn't have access to dental care. Well, your dental health impacts your regular physical health. So people began to understand, and plus it created jobs.
Yeah. I just want to say this one other thing too before I get off, because you watch the WNBA just like I do. I don't know if the other fellas in there watch it. But Keith, ain't there some fine women in the WNBA?
Yes, sir.
Fine.
Leticia Collier.
Fine. But here's the reason why I said this too, Keith. Because of all them fine sisters and stuff, not just sisters, you name it. Guess who they want to make the as far as beauty, the one that they're displaying as far as beauty, and you said her name earlier.
Oh, Caitlin Clark?
Sophie Cunningham.
Well, Sophie Cunningham, but you know what? Sophie Cunningham, I've been watching her since she was at Missouri. She was like that in Missouri. She's blonde. People think, oh, because she's blonde and she's slender. No, she sticks her nose in it. Look at some of those altercations with the Fever and see who's in the middle of it. Sophie Cunningham.
But I'm saying, Keith, as far as a beauty standard, that's
well, I mean, I think that's the same thing with a whole lot of women who watch the NBA because they think certain basketball players are cute. I mean that's it. Here's the other thing, though. The WNBA is trying to attract that male market, right? And so how do you appeal to that? And I think that's one of the problems because of the number of women in the WNBA who are gay. You know, for some men, that's off-putting, right?
To me, I think Angel Reese is probably one of the finest ones there, man.
Yes, sir.
I think she's finer than Sophie Cunningham, in my opinion.
Yes, sir.
See, and that's a good thing. But here's the thing. Angel Reese can play.
Sophie Cunningham can play.
She can play a little bit, but she's coming off the bench.
Right. Okay, y'all. Thanks.
All right, man.
Peace.
You got another caller, Jack.
Caller, welcome to the program.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, my question for you. I know the Republicans is bringing up all this. I'm gonna call it Black Velvet drama. Well, no, not Black Velvet. I'm gonna say Whiskey Williams drama because that's what they usually drink when they decide they want to tear their whole house upside down.
A lot of brothers do too.
Huh?
A lot of brothers do too.
Well, yeah, but you know, they're more of the Black Velvet and Parmesan drinkers, and then they get up in the morning and cry about it.
Hell, are people still drinking Parmesan?
Yeah.
Now I know we drink a lot of yak, but I didn't know that people were still drinking Parmesan.
They still drinking Parmesan, yes.
Okay.
But in the rural towns, they get the Williams whiskey. And but my question is, don't you think the Republicans need to clean up around their own house?
Do you think that's
a lot of them are married to immigrants.
Yeah, I think that's. Look, man, hypocrisy is so baked in to politics that the images that you see are not the reality, right? Let's talk about the Republican Party. Let's talk about the Southern Baptist Convention, right? The Southern Baptist Convention right now is dealing with a major sex scandal. But you know what they're focusing on? Whether or not women should be allowed to preach and pastor. That's a diversion from the real issue there, the abuse of women in the Southern Baptist Convention. So will they clean it up? I don't know. I mean, human beings, you can be confronted with your truth, and that doesn't mean you're going to act on it in a positive way. I don't know. I can't answer that. But as long as we've had political parties, we've had hypocrisy.
And then this thing we're here with the LGBT. The dude who hit Elon Musk in the eye, ain't he part of the LGBT, married to a white man, raising white children? And I don't hear none of these blacks, the proud blacks. I don't heard y'all give them no smoke. Y'all really a punk. Not the P-U-N-K, the P-O-N-K. Y'all ain't gave them no smoke. And then
well, you know what? But you know why, Al? Because I'm gonna tell you, it is one of the most. Our sexuality is as basic as we are, right? I mean, it's our sexuality. Yet we have a very difficult time either understanding it, dealing with it, I mean, so I'm not surprised, because when we start having these issues around sexuality, there's so many things going in. Like, I think they missed the boat in that whole let the states decide on whether or not trans can participate primarily in women's sports, because Clarence Thomas never even wanted to deal with the science. I mean, some of these issues is really more about science, not our feelings, not our morality. It's really about science. And we don't want to deal with the science because the science might throw us off our square in terms of how we feel. And I'll say it again, how we feel about an issue. So if we feel strongly about an issue, no matter what the facts say, we ain't moving off that square. And we do that to our own detriment. I mean, I think if we really want the trans issue is a more complicated issue than there are only two genders. That is not, science doesn't say that this absolute. Yes, the vast majority of people are probably biologically male and biologically female. But then when we understand our sexuality and our sexual orientation, it's more than physically where we are. It's how we think of a thing. So it's more complicated. And I know people don't want to deal with that. So it's real comfortable to come in and say, well, the Bible says. Don't use the Bible for science. That's a misapplication of the Bible.
And then I know when it comes to the laws and lessons of life, especially when it comes to dope dating and the after sex, they mess with anything and everything. Man, woman, cat, dog, he, she, hermaphrodite. They don't talk about all the scandals. They mad about all this, but yet they the main one eating penis. And don't let them get homeless. Don't let them get homeless. That is,
but you know what?
That's not the only thing tooted up in the air.
Yeah, but I'm gonna say this. It's like when we talk about prostitution. People will, if you're simplistic, you think that these women and men out there because they love having sex so much. That's not the case. You use the word. There's a desperation. I'm using what I got to eat. I'm using what I got to help me deal with my addiction. So when people are so judgmental, not understanding that, I used to say this when I was a young preacher, and I got in a whole lot of trouble. I said, well, there's a whole lot of women who were married who were prostitutes, right? That was probably in politic way of saying it. But what I'm saying is that people use what they got, and certainly in order to survive. Prostitution is, for the most part, not in every case, but for the most part, those women you see on the stroll on Lisbon ain't out there because they like sex that much. No, they're out there because they're either trying to survive or they're trying to deal with a drug issue. So, I think we should be less judgmental, but we don't want to take the time to actually go in and try to understand the problem. It's just better to bitch about it and react to it, as opposed to sitting up saying, well, one, the conversation we had, and then it kind of rolls back with me. I don't need to be in your bedroom, and that's the problem. We don't have a problem with being in other people's bedrooms. We have a problem with people being in our bedrooms. I think you need to extend that to everybody. How you get down ain't my business. It ain't my business. But
do you think the real business? But do you think the real business is they can't get nobody to go in that bedroom? So I
don't know. It could be a lot of things. It could be a lot of things. That's why I'm saying it is more layered and complicated. What do we focus on with the Diddy? Did we focus on Diddy just physically abusing a woman? No, we focused on baby oil because that gets into our whole prurient interest, like, ooh, what they doing? And ooh, I wouldn't do that. Okay, that ain't you, but there's a lot of people that use baby oil. Now, people say it's probably a better lubricant, but hey, that's not for me. I'm not out trying. I'm just saying, so when we had the conversation, it's easy to get emotional about the conversation, kind of focus in on things, but a lot of things, how I listened, and because June was Pride Month, more and more people were out telling their stories. And when you especially hear about people who grew up in the church and how they were so taught to hate themselves because of who they loved by a place that should have been based on love, and the damage that it did to people emotionally, right? Psychologically, we could care less about that because all we know is the Bible said, okay, you did that, but we should never use Bible or scriptures as a weapon, and we have. And we need to step up to that reality. So I agree with you in terms of, no, they're not going to deal with their issue. They prefer to focus on something else. How do you talk about trans people that makes up such an insignificant statistical portion of our society, but it has such an outsized, because it plays into our feelings, our fears when it comes to sex? Yes, sir.
Quick question. Is it that they're using the Bible as a weapon, or they're using it as a form of correction?
Even if I would agree with using it as a form of correction, there's another part of me that says that who am I to correct someone else's sexuality? Now that's key.
Well, no. Wait. Hold on.
But again, Jermaine knows what I said. That's key.
Right. So me speaking to Keith, the person Keith, not the person that wears the collar. So if you was wearing the collar person would say, and that the biblical aspect is correction.
I wouldn't.
I said the collar.
No, I'm saying even with the collar.
Is that because
if you want to do that correction, then we need to fully apply the correction. So I talk about it all the time.
Keith, is that because you're Baptist?
Huh?
Is that because you're Baptist?
No, it has nothing to do with that, Debo. It has everything to do with Jesus talked about divorce. Jesus was very strong in his teachings on divorce.
Right. Right.
I don't hear people up doing corrections on divorces because context. Now we can tell, oh, you need to think about context and time. And during that time, okay. Why isn't that same rule then applied to people that are gay? Because Jesus didn't talk about people being gay. No one can show me where Jesus talked about people being gay. But Jesus did talk about people getting divorced, and primarily how men during that time used divorce. Look, I got tired of her. Give me a new model. I don't do anything to take care of her. Let her get out there. And then what does it open the door for? It opens the door for this woman either to find herself in a more abusive relationship or she's forced to prostitution. I haven't heard that level of correction. The correction I hear is on people who are gay. Well, I don't know, that ain't a fair application if you're not saying to people who are unwilling to take care of their kids. Where's the Bible and the correction on that? Because I don't hear that.
Well, hold on. So are we talking about the human side of being moral, or are you talking about the spiritual aspect of your life? Because if you're talking about the spiritual aspect of your life, a correction is all through the Bible as far as the stuff that he calls sin.
So but I'm going to tell you, and you know this in your life, that sin is relative. And what I mean by sin is relative is that people who grew up in very fundamentalist Pentecostal homes could not watch television. It was considered a sin. Going to the movies was considered a sin.
I'm not talking about what people call it sin. I'm talking about
that's what I'm saying. So when I hear this term sin is usually in the eye of the beholder.
No, but that's not what the Bible says, Keith. But Keith, that's not what the Word of God says. So
what that sin is in the eye of the beholder. I'm talking about how is practically being applied. Because obviously what the Word of God said is secondary, right, to people's reality. And I'm just saying that if we're able to pick people out, and again, that's why I think you have to have a conversation around sex and sexuality based on the science, and then how you use that sexuality becomes the morality.
Keith, I think do you think that is based on, and you can kind of take it where you will, but I mean, you see different doctrines or the different denominations that lean a certain way in certain aspects. So you think that's why we see so many different denominations, or what's the reasoning for that? Because there's a lot of different ways that people teach.
Yeah,
I got that, and I think that's not surprising because people have their own sense of what revelation is and what that revelatory truth that we have. But again, when I hear this term sin, for example, I just gave you examples, you know, that, you know, smoking, the Bible doesn't say smoking is a sin, but what smoking is a bad health issue.
No,
right?
it
The
does
Bible
say
doesn't say
defile
that
it.
drinking
Yeah,
is a
exactly.
sin.
Talk
The
about the
Bible
temple.
says
talk about the temple.
The
because,
temple is your body.
exactly. So it don't say that smoking is a sin. However, if you defile your body, the cause of you defiling your body is the sickness that comes upon you and the
but I
things that
might make
happen
the
to you.
But that's just
argument.
like you people will say that, you know, the sin is, it don't say you can't drink, it just say don't drink in drunkenness.
Right, exactly.
So
And
so
one man's
but that,
drunkenness is
yeah,
another
but,
man's
but then there are
sobriety.
religions that said that you
Because
sinning
again,
if you
there's
drink
science going
wine.
on
If you
there.
drink a
My
dinner wine, you
body,
sinning.
how much I do, what I drink, that's all science, man.
Well, no. Hold on. The Bible talks about you being in the drunkenness state.
I
And
got that, and that's true.
So
Because bad decisions are made when you're in a
Okay,
situation of
so-
drunkenness.
so
That
so
the
that's the
drinking ain't
reason.
the sin,
Exactly. So
but what
it's
can come from
Yeah, I got
that
about 3 of them
being
at the house. It was a
inebriated
bad
could
decision.
become a problem for a sin.
right. So it's like the drinking part. All right, you casually drink, but when you get drunk, you are no longer yourself. So now you're operating out of a totally whole different spirit, which now I understand, and I've been saying this for years now. When you ride past these liquor stores, you see it's a sign that say we have wine, beer, and spirits. Because when you get those spirits inside of you, you are no longer yourself. I feel this thing, guy.
Oh no, you
Landlord.
yourself.
Oh,
That's another self. You got multiple selves going on. Oh, you're still you.
See, there's
It's,
blue
ain't,
birds and there's
ain't,
little
ain't nothing
birds.
coming
You're
out
right,
of you
right.
that ain't in you.
Wait. But prime example, Debo, man,
There's
Debo
Debo
just
And little
and then
dude.
there's little dude.
but he just made my point, because when I used to drink, and my drink was outside of the dark liquor, the Hennessy and Coke and Parmesan, I used to
You drank Parmesan?
I used to back in the day, but I stopped.
What did I miss?
But I'm gonna tell you why. Drinking Parmesan and drinking gin and juice, man, I would turn into a totally whole different person, man. Like I'm a totally whole different person.
Hey, but
Like this is a person that I didn't even know existed.
Apostle.
Bishop.
It was in you. It was in you.
But I didn't know it.
Isn't that what
until-
Paul, when he said, "Oh, wretched man that I am"?
Exactly.
And he talked about the old man is still there.
But you don't know how wretched
old
you
man.
are until those spirits come up out of you. So I had
But
no
I'm just
clue.
saying it's in you. Your person.
Right.
Like there's
You
some
saying the spirit
people
is in the
who,
bottle?
you know, you don't hear 4 words from them. Let them get a couple drinks in them. You can't shut them up. Well, it's in
Hey,
them.
Yeah.
well, yeah, that is true,
yeah.
because even on the flip side, if you out there with a young lady, I've heard people say, "Hey, you know, get her drinks in." Then once you get her comfortable, now she's comfortable. Now she's loose,
And she gonna tell the
and
truth.
she gonna tell everything. She gonna pillow talk. So if you're looking for information between her and somebody who you beefing with that might be with her, you get her
You
comfortable.
know what? You know who alcohol loose men.
That too.
Because
Yeah,
look,
they gonna
I don't
spill
know how
that.
many of y'all that met a woman and you just confess because you in love. You confess your
Yeah.
whole life. You get names,
Pillow talk.
Brenda, Louise, all those things. Guess what? I need to take a break and then
It's getting hot in here.
I want to hear what this guess what
Hey,
is.
I'm looking out of my studio window. I see my wife out there sitting in the car listening. So
We're gonna take a break.
Yeah, take a break.
you
and go
listen
drink some
to
water,
Community
Jack.
Voice. Take a break. I'll be right back. Oh, and then it had VS and VSO. People drink because, like I said, when I was a kid, we didn't even drink beer. You know, it was usually brandy or wine.
Parris.
All right, welcome back. Somebody put in the chat, MD 2020 is making a comeback.
Bad dog 2020.
You don't
Not the
want
bad
that.
dog. Not the bad dog.
But I
But
tell you
I can see
what has made
why
a
Paul
tremendous
Masson was
comeback
so
is Wild
popular
Irish Rose,
here.
Keith.
Wild Irish Rose.
Wild Irish Rose. I hear now. Somebody said this the other day that rich Caucasians are drinking Wild Irish Rose as a dinner wine.
Because it's a sherry.
Really?
Yeah, that's what
It's
they're
a
saying.
sherry.
You know what?
But it's Kool-Aid
Would
now.
you say because it's a sherry?
It's a sherry, yeah.
It's
And a lot of
Kool-Aid now.
people, I don't know, I see Rhonda sitting here, but sherry is also like a palate cleaner. I think, you know, like I think people use sherry to like kind of clean your palate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's a sherry. Okay, now I can see why Paul Masson
Of course you
was
would
so
know
popular
that,
in
being
Wisconsin
bougie and
because we
everything.
drink a lot of brandy here. And Paul Masson's a brandy. Okay. Making sense.
I think vodka is number one in the state of Wisconsin. Well, it used to be, and then brandy held a very strong second.
No, I thought it was brandy because they're old fashions.
Vodka, because of Fleshman's.
Well, I'm gonna tell you this.
Caller, welcome to the program.
No, they fell off.
No.
Yeah, but I'm gonna tell you this, man. One thing about alcohol, man, when it gets in you, you do find yourself doing some things that you never thought that you would do. And
Speak for yourself.
well, yeah, okay. Well, I'm gonna speak for myself.
What?
No, I'm just saying, like, just from some of the choices of you know, that I made,
Like who you woke
being
up
under
beside.
the influence. Some of that too. Jesus, you're like, what was I thinking?
Hey, you went alone right out.
No, seriously. I mean, though, since we having an honest moment, alcohol will make you do some things that in the morning you'd be like, what happened?
Yeah, I think someone I thought it was just a great analogy someone put in the chat. It's true with liquor. Liquor just took the dog chain off.
Yeah.
I mean, and you use the term you're less inhibited, you know, because for whatever reasons. But no, they said that the most popular drink in Wisconsin is the brandy old fashioned.
Okay.
And
But I
if you
meant
know-
no, but that's a mixed drink.
Yeah, and then it says, okay, Wisconsin replaces it with brandy. In fact, the state consumes more brandy than the other 49 states combined.
Mm-hmm.
Brandy.
I knew brandy was in there, but I think Fleshman, and I'm only talking the state of Wisconsin again. I believe at the time I was a liquor salesman.
Fleshman.
Vodka was like number one, and Fleshman was like
Yeah,
the number one.
The number one.
Yeah, but have you ever been up to Foxes and Hounds?
Foxes and Hounds in
Hubertus?
No.
Rhonda took me up there one year for my birthday for a fish fry.
Mm-hmm.
And dude, it was brandy old fashions and Miller beer. And then the other one they said is
High Life, right? The High Life beer. The High Life beer, Miller High Life. Yep.
And then the other one they said is the where is it? God, brandy old fashioned. No, there's the other one that's not brandy. It's a Bloody Marys. Yeah, Bloody Marys are
right on 35th and North Avenue. When I sold for a particular company, Fletchman's vodka, we'd have a 30-case deal.
Right.
This big display, and every week religiously, you are easily ordering 10 to 15 cases to replenish your display.
Really?
And that's on 35th and North. Fletchman vodka.
Yeah, and that probably had a lot to do with being in the city. But when you think about statewide, because they say we consume more brandy in Wisconsin than they do in France.
Somebody said Keith introduced me to a liquor.
Keith introduced him to what?
And they
To a
took
liquor.
one
I think
drink.
he talking about his brother Keith.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's
He
Jules.
said he was tipsy, but I don't really drink it.
He does have a brother named Keith. Yeah, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
No,
man.
we had what did we have? We had what was it? Was it ginger beer and Uncle Nearest?
Oh, leave my uncle out of this.
Yeah,
That's-
ginger beer and
that's
Uncle
good.
Nearest.
Hey, Uncle Nearest
Is
changed.
that
it
he's
Little
referring to
Dude.
the uncle? Is he referring to the Uncle Nearest?
Yeah, we were at that's when who was it? No big deal. It was me, Keon, Stingley, and George, and so we and we were at Elsa's,
Mm.
and it was Uncle Nearest and what was it? Oh God, I can't think of it now. The Uncle Nearest and what is the ginger beer?
Who was it made by? New Glarus, or who was it?
Uncle Nearest was
No,
they're
I know Uncle
receivership
Nearest, but I'm
now.
talking
That's
about-
a black-owned
I'm talking
distillery.
about New Glarus being the local up north in New Glarus, Wisconsin. They make the spotted cow. I was
Right.
asking what their
But
brand.
no, this was and we had something. What was it? Rhonda, we went to see Stevie Wonder in Chicago. Was that the something mule? Oh, Moscow Mule. And I had never had ginger beer before. And Moscow Mules, they have like ginger beer. And so, yeah, that was but here's the thing I discovered about ginger beer, and ginger beer is really popular in the islands, it is high in sugar.
Man, beer
It
is
is
so
high in sugar. It tastes good.
man.
Hey, Keith. George said, "No, you fool."
I know. I was trying to do some plausible deniability.
You're trying to deflect. He was deflecting.
Right. I thought it helped that he had a brother named Keith. Yeah, we had we'd gone out, and George thought it was a good opportunity for us to go out, and Keon.
Is that when he asked you to? Is that when he asked you to if Rhonda could bake him a chocolate cake?
Oh
No,
no,
that never came up.
here you go. Start.
Oh,
man.
I was
Don't
just
fall
asking.
into that.
No, it never came up.
Never.
Caller, welcome to the program.
Caller.
Hey, what's going on, y'all?
Hey, what's happening?
I was just listening to Jermaine and y'all talking about liquor and the things that it might have you do and, that you don't normally do. I wanted to ask everybody, and I guess I'll start with Jermaine. Has everybody during the process, the part where you're learning what your limit is, had that conversation with the Lord?
Yeah.
It might have been over a toilet.
Yes,
it might
sir,
have been
Doc.
when you couldn't make it to the
Yes,
toilet.
sir.
About how you ain't never gonna drink again.
I never did it ever again. Yes, sir.
What was the drink? And I guess I want to ask each one of y'all, what was the drink y'all was drinking, and from where it made y'all have that conversation?
Jack Daniels.
Mine was Moet. Now you know how back in the club days, everybody used to go to the club and you buy 2 or 3 bottles of Moet just to walk around the club.
Oh, you was a major baller.
Oh yeah, man, we was out stupid, and I'm pouring drinks in other, people cups and pouring it in mine. And before the end of the night, both bottles was gone, and I was so toe up, I felt sick, and I promised God that I would never do that again in my life. And I ain't never did it again, because when I woke up that next morning, I felt terrible, man. I felt like I was still hungover. Like it was
I wanted to know why the bed wouldn't stop spinning.
Man, yeah, like who's spinning this joint? Like what's going on, man? Like no,
I'm the biggest fool you ever seen in your life, because and I'm reverting back to when I sold liquor for a particular company again. We had a new energy drink out, so they would give us cases of samples. So I had a bar at the time, so I'm running around letting everybody try it, and I'm trying it with my Kettle One vodka at the time. And I've been drinking this stuff all evening. Man, you talking about the room spinning. I said, Lord, if I ever, I promise you I'll never. And I think it was an energy drink. That's what it was.
No, what?
Yeah, because because the energy drink was keeping me up. The liquor was trying to bring me
It
down.
was confusing.
Yeah,
your body.
they fighting, man.
You mixing you miss a stimulant with a depressant.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It was the worst situation I've ever seen.
Jeez.
For me, anyway. For my conditioning.
Mine was Seagram Gin.
Seagram Gin?
Yeah, I had to let Seagram go because I was waking up in places I didn't know where I was at.
Okay, yeah.
How the hell? I was just sitting up here thinking there's the throne of grace and then the throne of waste.
Yeah.
The throne of waste. But it was Jack Daniels for me. That was the one, man. Jack Daniels was, and it'd be like cowboy drinking, lead the bottle. Remember in the Westerns, they say lead the bottle.
Yeah.
And I had a buddy after I pretty much just fell back from drinking Jack Daniels. I had a buddy come by one day and he was drinking like he was drinking Kool-Aid. I'm like, Negro, you had to get home, right?
Man.
So
yeah. Speaking of Kool-Aid, I would say, Keith, my first one was a punch bowl that probably had Kool-Aid in it. You know how you go to the party and everybody pouring in high school, everything in it. And I never forget, me and my cousin, we don't know how we got back to my house. But all I know is my mother, that was the first time my mother knew I was drinking. I was still in high school. And we had to get up when she came home to get her bathroom flow together because of the way we did it. But I want one more drink I want to mention that I wish was back on the market. And Debo, you might be able to speak to this one. You remember the Bacardi Breezer?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Of all the mixed drinks, man, that was my favorite. Anything similar to a wine cooler, man. The juice in it seemed like it was real, and it had enough Bacardi, but not too much.
Have you seen these cut waters?
I have seen them.
Give it a try.
I will.
Ron and I
I guess that's my liquor conversation, except for the Long Island's and Sonny's,
Alizé.
They made me have that
Talk to me
conversation.
about Long
Man,
Island.
Alizé.
Talk to me about
Another one, man. That's another good one.
Yeah, Alizé. Man, everybody started drinking Alizé when Tupac
that
came.
was Kool-Aid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but it didn't make you feel
And
like
and chasing it with Hennessy like a fool.
Just
it was making
dusted.
George, you're right, man. I never back in the day we were playing ball on a Sunday and we thought, man, we didn't play ball. Let's go and get something refreshing. And I guess we were drinking the Long Island's like it was real iced tea.
Wow.
And found out it wasn't real iced tea. Because I think they put 7 liquors in a Long Island.
Yes, there's 7 in there.
Yeah, and that's like, man. So I think I got to 1.5. And to this day, I don't know how I got home. So I'm just saying, and I think that when you're younger, your body, your recovery is different.
Yeah, man.
Than when you're older, but dude, I mean, and sometimes it was never like I set out like the white dudes I went to college with, they set out with one intention in mind. They gonna get it.
Yeah.
I mean, that for me, it was just kind of one thing led to another, and it's like, bam, how did this happen? Because one thing I never did when I got depressed or something like that, I wouldn't drink. So it wasn't. But man, you just get out, and I'll give you another one. My senior year in college, we elected a new president. And they had a you ever seen those champagne fountains?
Yeah.
But instead of champagne, they had Asti. It was the first time in my life I ever had Asti. Dude, I was drinking that, man. It was so, I don't know. I ended up 17 miles away from Emmitsburg, Maryland. How I got to where I got to, and then I got sick as a dog, man. I hadn't eaten. It was like. So no, man, I've had some pretty bad experiences. Most of them have not been bad, but I've had some bad ones. But Ron and I, when we were in Puerto Rico, we went to the Bacardi factory, and we had an 8-year-old rum. Oh my God! Ron even thought that. Rhonda's not a drinker. Rhonda, that's good. It was really smooth.
You got to be careful of those smooth ones.
Yeah, Doc, they
Yeah.
hit
That's
you
true, too.
after a while, Doc.
Yeah, they creep up on you.
Yeah, yeah, they creep up on you. That was the slow gin, right?
Yeah, they be
You
like,
know,
Yep.
"Mwah,
Yep.
yeah,
mwah."
slow gin
So-
didn't
so
hit
at
you
home,
until
I've
you got
got-
up and you in the car, and then it was like, because you drink it like, oh,
Keith, at
and
home,
then
I've got
bam,
a
here
bottle
it
of
come.
129 point some odd Uncle Nearest. Then the other one is 100 proof. Then there's the 97 proof. They've got like 4 different levels of this stuff, man, and I don't even understand why it need to be any more than the 97.
Wait, hold up. Wait, so you said it's 129?
29.
Yeah, I got 129 proof at the house.
129, then it's 100% proof, and then it's 97 proof.
Mhm.
So like, what's the highest it can go?
Well, that 129 one, that is like the
Man, that's death in
the
the bottle.
brewers. What do you call it? The master. What's his name? Keith.
The distiller.
Yeah, well, it's his like premium.
Top of the-
Yeah, that's his top of the line.
Well, yeah.
Somebody bought it for me. I do not invest that kind of money in that kind of stuff.
Oh, so wait, so the 129 is more expensive than the 100.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh yeah. Well,
Oh.
but here's the thing though. Those are just for you to sip and
Yeah,
savor.
those
It
are
ain't
not for a
you
night
to
out
sit
on the
up there.
town. 'Cause
Really?
you better be at the house if you decide to do that.
Yeah, I mean, there are people out there that really enjoy the taste of a good brandy,
Hmm.
or a good cognac or a good bourbon, but it's not like taking it to the head, because if you take it to the head with that level of
You're on the
alcohol
rocks,
in it,
man. Few, in a rock glass, a little couple double shot or something like that, and let that do you. You might do 2 of those. Sit back with a nice gar, and just kick it.
oh yeah, I mean that because that's kind of how it's supposed to be. Now look, there's some people up there. I had a dude, you would just sit. You were talking about Fleshman's, but he was drinking like a fifth of what is that, Seagram's vodka?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he had a whole lot of health issues.
And people that
From that.
drink
Yeah,
Fleshman will look down on somebody that drinks Skull, stuff like that.
Well, let me do this, man. Yeah, I only got a minute for this last caller because I gotta get out the way for Kwaku and Alicia. Caller, welcome to the
No.
Roll on.
caller, welcome to the program.
Let me help you fellas out. You're talking about proof and alcohol content. 190 proof is the equivalent as pure as you can get for pure alcohol. When I was a youngster in the 50s and the early 60s, we had Golden Grain. It was cheap, and that's what you would spike stuff with.
Golden Grain.
No, that's pure alcohol. They had some other names.
Yeah,
But
like grain
Golden
alcohol.
Grain was one. Pure alcohol. 180 proof, 190 proof.
You may well drink rubbing alcohol.
So when you take the proof and have it, you have the percentage of alcohol.
So
Y'all write that on a book.
So the higher the amount, the drunker you get.
So when you read a bottle and it says 45% alcohol,
Right.
that makes it 90 proof. You always double it.
Oh.
Yeah.
See, I'm not a-
25% don't make 90. That ain't doubling. That's 50 proof.
Well, I'm just telling you the way
And you know what?
as a
Brother
sales person,
Ward,
I know
what
what the
Brother Ward
bottle
is
says.
talking about was the ingredient that
What the
people
bottle
use
says,
in jungle
alcohol,
juice.
that's one thing. Proof is half of that is the percentage of alcohol. And y'all have a good one, doctor.
Right. Yeah, they used to do something called jungle juice on black campuses. Was it Wakatumi? But you start off with grain alcohol. That's just pure alcohol. And then they start pouring in other alcohols. I'm going to tell you, the quietest time ever on Mount St. Mary's campus was the day after a jungle juice party. Folks would be so hungover and so sick in the cafeteria. Dude, I didn't mess with it.
Wow.
All right, y'all. Hey, man, let me appreciate it. The program didn't kind of go where I thought it was going to go, but that's how it is sometimes. Clark Kent, thank you.
Thank you.
Debo, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Apostle, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Callers, we thank you. The good Lord willing, creek don't rise. Hope to talk to everybody tomorrow. And as always, go from this place in peace.